you remember that dad joke about a snail?
Go on.
When it's like, there's a little knock at the door, and then this bloke opens the door and he looks around, doesn't see anyone, and then looks down and sees a little snail, and he's got a little cup in his hand. He's like, "Excuse me, can I have a drink of water?" The bloke goes, "Fuck off," and just kicks the snail away. And then 3 weeks later, there's another little knock on the door, and he's like, "Fucking hell," and he goes out and he has a look around, and then looks down and it's a little angry snail again, and he's like, "What'd you do that for?"
Fucking hell. Oh, yeah, because it took him so long to get back. Oh, that's good. That's good. All right.
So bad.
Welcome to the 3T RPG podcast, a podcast all about tabletop RPGs. I'm Harrison Hunt, and with me is Nick Lamley.
Time for sausages.
And of course, James Clark.
Hello.
Before we begin, though, I would like to thank the following patrons who donate at the Dreadlord and Devil King levels. That's Ace B, Julian Burnick, Ryan Wahab, and new guy Jason Duncan. You guys are what's keeping the lights on. So, thanks for that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for being part of the Dark Army and for living your darkest, dankest life. Yes. But I'd just like to make an announcement as well while we're here, talking about the Patreon, that we've got a new tier for $10,000. You can be part of the Dark God tier, and we'll actually
be the god of us.
You will be the Christ figure of our new dark religion, basically. And the good thing about that is one of the benefits is that Nick and I will actually make a shrine in your honour and pray to it, so you receive free prayers once a week, and you get to we'll fly you to England to come and play a game with us of your choosing. So that's pretty good for 10 grand, isn't it?
It's not bad. Worship.
We're basically losing money on that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But if you want to be worshipped,
I'm just hoping like fucking Jeff Bezos like stumbles across our Patreon and just sees that and is like, 10 grand.
That's
pretty
good.
All right, so today we got some good segments for you. We got feedback side. We got the new segment RPG News. Now, what do we call it? News Punch.
Oh, News Punch, yeah.
Yeah, then we got What You Saying, followed by the main subject, followed by Electro Letters. And the main subject this time is going to be how to do a conversion.
Oh.
How do you convert something to an RPG? Should we do some bloody RPG news, shall we?
It's News Punch.
News Punch. First bit of news, D&D, right? Wizards of the Coast. They're adding disclaimers to all of their old stuff regarding racial insensitivity. Now, of course, sometimes the news things are going to be a bit political, but we'll try not to comment on that side of things. But nonetheless, yeah, the old products such as Oriental Adventures, because I believe Oriental is now a slur, so you can't say that anymore. So it's going to have disclaimers saying, I'm really sorry, this was written back in 1975. We didn't know better. Racism was fun then. That type of thing.
Yeah, sorry.
But so in addition to that, they've also mentioned that they're going to be updating their new editions or current products with more, shall we say, racially sensitive types of like descriptions of drow and orcs and things like this, which is all good. But I wanted to mention one thing is because there's a pretty cool product already doing that. If the racial stuff in D&D isn't your cup of tea, if you think dwarves have really got a bad rap in that book, what you can do is you can check out Ancestry and Culture, an alternative to race in 5e from Arcanist Press. And this is pretty cool because you can have highborn orcs, you can have multiracial characters, so you can get the best of both worlds. If you ever wanted to play a half-dwarf, half-orc, or a half-dragonborn, half-elf, you can do that shit.
Pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
So it's a pretty fucking...
Yep,
yeah, it is
cool.
awesome. So yeah, check that out. And speaking of which, bloody Lamentations of the Flame Princess are putting their foot in it again.
Oh, God.
Blood in the Chocolate, their adventure, has had a record-selling weekend. But you know why? It's because something bad happened.
Oh, God. What's happened?
So, basically, Kyle Chenier apologised because he now believes that Blood in the Chocolate was mostly written in bad taste. There's a publisher of a game called Lancer, and they refused to be part of the Ennies because Blood in the Chocolate had previously won an award. Now, for those that don't know, this is it's an adventure based on Willy Wonka's chocolate factory of chocolate making.
It's awesome.
Except the Oompa It's a really good adventure,
good.
but the Oompa Loompas in it, I mean, those were sort of pretty much a stand-in for slaves in the original book anyway. And in this, they're sort of pygmies, and they've been enslaved by this horrible woman. And the bloke who wrote it has now disavowed the work, saying that he did it kind of to be extreme, to fit in with the Lamentations of the Flame Princess model. But you know, the one thing I find funny about this, or strange about this, is that I don't think you were ever meant to sympathise with the villain and what she'd done.
No.
I don't think it was it was framed as being a bad thing, you know.
Yeah.
But there you go. Nonetheless, if the guy who wrote it doesn't like it, that's absolutely fine. But the thing is that I just found it funny that every time this happens with a Lamentations product, the let's be honest, really terrible Lamentations of the Flame Princess Facebook group will go, I'm going to buy another one just to show him. And it's like, I mean, grow up. And speaking of Lamentations, here's the best news of the week, guys.
Go on.
James Raggy of Lamentations of the Flame Princess, the
We've met
writer,
him.
he's selling. We have met him, and he's a shrewd businessman. He's come up with this fantastic idea of selling an empty box for €35.
What?
What the fuck's going on here? What is this box?
What do you mean?
I
you
mean,
mean?
this is a fucking good box. No, it's not. It's a slipcase. So you know, they in Lamentations they release those adventure anthologies, which group adventures together. So they got Fire.
Oh, with the skulls on the front.
That's the one. Yeah. So they've just released another one, Adventure Anthology Blood. Right.
Adventure Anthology Blood.
So yeah, and so now there's 3 books, right? So this empty box that you can buy for €35 is a slipcase for all 3 books. Now I know what you're thinking. Why on earth would you bring like 20 adventures along to a game night? And the answer is you really wouldn't. And what they've done here, cleverly, is made a product that's not only mostly useless, but a complete waste of money. So I think that's the news of the week.
That's awesome.
I mean, if the box had come with the new book and it allowed you to add your existing books into it with the box, then that's fine, isn't it? Because you get the new adventure anthology plus a slipcase, and the slipcase has room for the other 2 anthologies or whatever. Now that's good.
Well, no, you can do that. It's just you have to pay £35 for the box.
No.
No, I will not.
And we all know, because we all know that, like, you know, some of their stuff's really well priced.
Yeah, it is. It's actually really fair, and they're really nice products as well.
And then they do that.
He really dropped the ball. But the good thing is about all of this is they're giving away freebies with the stuff they send, like pens, tote bags, things like this. And they've also made a Lamentations of the Flame Princess bucket, something nobody was asking for.
What? That's what we all need.
The fuck?
So
Which one is the book that's red?
Red and Pleasant Land, that one.
Is that the one? Is that the one that's going for about £800 on Amazon at the moment?
Oh, no, Vein to the Earth, isn't it? That's the one.
That's it.
Why
That
is
was
it
£50
going-
the other day.
It's fucking it's quite big anyway, but it's because it's a Zach S book, and it was like pretty much already out of print by the time he'd done the naughty. So
that's why it's jumped up in price.
yeah, fucking crazy, isn't it? It's like, I mean, it's
all
probably
crazy.
good, but it's not that good.
Not worth £800.
Anyway, guys, I just wanted to... Basically, I started the news segment to tell you I've ordered a Lamentations of the Flame Princess box and bucket. Just because it's what I
That sounds like a song. That sounds like a folk song. Box and bucket.
I got my box and bucket. I put it on my lawn.
Fill it up with water.
And pour it on my wife. And that's the news.
There you go.
All right, let's do some feedback.
The feedback side. The feedback side. Yes, bitch, the feedback side. It's the feedback section.
Yeah, we take your comments and read them out. Yeah, feedback, bitch. So we got some feedback for the last episode. We did an episode all about how to do effective horror in RPGs. And Owen Lean, he comes in, butt of feedback. See, he started off well. What he means is bit of feedback on this really awesome episode. I think you can create horror with the wrong music. And he's saying this because we commented on you got to pick the right soundtrack for a horror game, right? He says, think of an example that horrifying rape scene in A Clockwork Orange. It's made all the more awful by Alex singing in the rain during it. I'm sure there are plenty of other examples of opposing elements in movies like that, but I just can't think of them right now. Daniel Owen, he also responds to this saying, just to echo Owen Lean, the best horror session I did with the PCs investigating an old Air Force listening post looking for a friend who'd been kidnapped. When they got there, it's eerily empty, and the room they came to had a radio playing the chorus line from the Police song, Every Move You Make.
Ugh.
And here's my response to that. When we talked about picking the right soundtrack, those are both examples of picking the right soundtrack.
Indeed, yeah.
A well-placed out-of-place song can be just as good as, a fully eerie song.
That was what we said. Oh yeah, totally. And that's what we said, wasn't it? When something's not quite right, and it's not scary in itself, but within that setting, it becomes eerie. And that's a perfect example of that. Putting what should be a normal song in a weird situation makes it all the more scary. So yeah, good work.
Well, yeah, but you know what? Like, that's where the child's music box cliche comes from, because it's something out of place, and it's like a creepy child, ring a roses. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, great point from both of them there. Maybe we should have been more clear about that. We actually got a couple of people talking to us from a site called Reddit. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh yeah.
It's a new up and coming website. The first guy, Walibo, he says, great tips. Gave me inspo for my horror adjacent one shot this weekend. Horror adjacent. So it's not scary, but it almost is. To give like an audio representation of what that's like, it's not it's
Oh God.
Ryan Quesadilla, he says, great episode. IDKY, I never thought to make the horrific monster following the party just immortal, but still, as you said, able to be stayed for a time. I think it instills a sense of dread in the players after seeing it again, but also doesn't rob them of the catharsis when defeating it temporarily. Also, just showed a friend of the episode you did on the Steve Jackson Secret Service raid, and he said it was wild. Love the podcast and keep up the awesome work.
Oh, thanks.
We don't have the good episodes, guys. That Steve Jackson one just keeps getting so many more views. And I'm like,
I know, it's crazy.
What about this episode we did on a game with willies in it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What about Made RPG? Haven't brought that up in a while.
I can't believe we got something nice from Reddit.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that is rare. For some reason, the people over on the RPG group seem to be really nice to us, mostly. Sometimes we get messages messages sort of like, I can't believe you reviewed Varg's book. Shut up.
You're shit.
All right, Nick.
Shut up.
Calm down.
No, not you guys. Not you guys, me.
Oh, right, sorry. And also, we also mentioned last week that should we, the Patreon people, right, they're our Dark Army, and should we need any killing done, we'll utter a code, an activation code. They're like a sleeper cell, right? Ace B, he simply says, if you need any killing done, let me know.
Oi.
I should stress at this point that the Dark Army is for comedy purposes only, and no real killing should take place. I thought that should...
By the way, I can't see him, but Harrison's definitely winking as he says that.
Possibly. Possibly, I don't know. For legal reasons, I can't say whether or not I'm winking, but you know.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah. If you know,
guys.
you know.
Imagine if one day this podcast is played in court, I just want to say, hello, jury.
I'm a stand-up citizen, I promise. Maybe that's why Reddit's got nice, because it knows we've got a Dark Army behind us.
Yeah, that's got to be it, isn't it?
At some point.
It's good. It's good when people have to bow to you in fear. All right, so that's it for feedback. Thank you very much for sending those in. We'll get on to what we've been playing in What You Slayin'.
One of these!
Oi, yeah? What you slayin'? First up, let's talk about Cypher Destiny, shall we? Should we talk about Cypher Destiny? So,
let's have a chat about it.
Cypher is a D20 Monty Cook game, all about altering difficulties using assets and ciphers and your character's talents. And Nick has cleverly used it for a Destiny game. Destiny's a sort of fantasy sci-fi shooter set in space and surrounding planets of Earth. I believe they call it a galaxy.
I think so.
Yeah, and Nick, tell us a little bit about recent goings on in your Destiny game.
Okay, so as I said before, the public image of the Guardians has been waning over the past years in Destiny, so it doesn't really run to the video game timeline, if you like. This is kind of a little bit more of a made up one, but it's so what recently they've been tasked to do is kind of raise the public image of Guardians to show the Tower folk that, you know, they do keep them safe, but they are actually, you know, there to keep them safe and protect them, because as far as the Tower folk are really concerned, they never really see them saving them so much. They always see them flying off planet and having all these cool guns and spending, you know, lots of money on keeping them safe, but they never really see it. So so the leaders of Vala decided that they needed to work on public relations. So he told them to take a film crew with them to film some of their best parts while on mission. And in the past few episodes, we've been kind of gathering cool shots and whatnot with this film crew. And then he asked them to put together a short movie to kind of show what Guardians do. And do you want to let them know what the name of the short film was called?
I actually can't remember, but I think it was that time I got reincarnated as a Guardian. Respawn, Fate of the Respawned, Gaiden the Light.
That's
it.
You can tell
That's the one.
it so happened to be that on that particular session, it was me, James, and one of the other players, James T, who turned up, and we're all kind of anime nerds, so we decided to pick like a fully anime title. I remember,
proper anime trope.
Yeah. So that was fun, man, and we kind of edited together, and we all went off tower for a bit out into the Deadlands outside and tried to get some like extra shots. Like I tried to do one of me 360 no scoping, but James fucked his roll up. He was trying to do like a sick jump. And he jumped and landed backwards, like in the crab position.
Yeah, I landed in the...
Oh, mate, it was so funny. So I was getting some cracking shots. They went down, they saw the editor, they told them what kind of movies how they wanted the movie to run, and I got them all to kind of describe what parts they did the beginning, someone else did the middle and the end, and it was great. And anyway, it premiered on the evening, and it was like the opening of a big games weekend where it was called Guardian Con. And the whole idea was, again, it was like almost like a big competition, like Olympic Games, to entertain the Tower folk and show them that the Guardians aren't so bad. Started off with some classic Crucible, a bit of
PvP
Control, which is PvP basically. They went up against another Guardian team. They had to cap points, hold all 3 points, and that would allow them to basically wipe out the other team. James done a spawn kill, sat on their spawn and just spawn trapped them. It's very clever, and that was great. And then the second round was a massive Sparrow race. Sparrows, if you don't know, in Destiny are basically Guardian's personal kind of motorbikes, if you like flying motorbikes, I should say. And it was a big endurance race, like a kind of Le Mans type thing, and they had to do 100 laps, and it was like whoever could basically keep going, and that was really good fun.
For any of our listeners that are playing Cypher System out there, I think the way Nick handled the race was very, very clever. So in Cypher System, you just, similarly to a lot of other D20 games, you set a difficulty number, and then players have to beat it, basically. And what Nick did is that each lap, as it went on, he increased the difficulty, and as people failed their rolls, they were out of the race. They crashed, or they were just so far behind they basically were uncounted. And that was a really clever way of doing it. And we got all the way out to difficulty 7, which means that the roll we had to beat would be 21.
21.
Yeah, and so at that point we had to start spending our resources to stay in the race, and fucking... Yeah. I'd already jumped from my Sparrow onto a mate, so he elbowed me off. Like we were just about to get to the finish line. He elbowed me off the fucking thing. But to be fair, he was. I was pretending to be on side and that I was just helping him, but I was going to try and leapfrog over him at the end. So he was right to do that.
Try come first. Yeah, it was hilarious. And what we was doing was, it was like so you could have an action and then you had to do your piloting roll if you like to see if you stayed in the race. But if you wanted to take an action, you could try and mess with the other players, and if you succeeded, it pushed the other player's next difficulty up by 1. So like one of them threw some mud in some guy's eyes, or was ramming them, or I think James T or Percy? Yeah, Percy was up front, Harris's character, and he had James T like kind of slipstreaming behind him really quietly, trying to put him off with that really loud bike he had.
Yeah, he was stealth. And the funniest thing was just when the race started, we were probably halfway through the first lap, and then fucking I shot at my brother's Sparrow with a shotgun, and my brother's reaction is, "Oh, what the fuck, man? What are you doing? Shit, you're shooting at your fellow players." And I'm like, "It's a race, you dingus. What the fuck else am I gonna do?"
Oh, mate, coming from the guy, it's Sean, by the way, who wanted to put spikes on his Sparrow before he even started the race.
Oh yeah, that's a good
it's like,
point. Nick allowed us like in downtime to kind of do like we could sort of prepare for the race, and so I went and I got like an incredible roll on this. So it wasn't Nick like basically overpowering me, but I went and got a fucking like a jet engine and put it on my back like a jetpack.
Yep.
But the good thing is
Yep.
is that we had a cipher. So ciphers are one use. They're either sort of like plot items or just a story thing that you can use once. And I had uninterruptible power source, so I used it on my jet engine, and I was using that throughout the fight. It was like a jet. It was just a jet engine with like 2 straps around my shoulders. It was pretty fucking cool.
Oh, it was fantastic, yeah, and it was going off. So, yeah, so it was a great race, and then obviously a big endurance race, and then who won the race actually in the end? Was it?
It was
JT.
You two?
James T. So
Oh, was it JT?
the character was
Oh.
Manuel Lightfoot, who's our hunter. Yeah.
So anyway, so he won the race, and then the final round of G-Con was a gauntlet, and the guys were like, "Oh, come on, we're all shattered." They were knackered from the race, and then their guys of Ireland was like, "Look, take some of these. We can't heal you up super quick, so you're gonna have to take some of these drugs, basically, to get you up to full health." But luckily, the gauntlet was full of captured enemies to the humans and to the Guardians, but they'd obviously been kept in pretty bad shape. And by the time they actually come out, it was a pretty easy fight for you guys. But
Yeah, we dispatched of them well quick.
Well,
but the humans didn't know that, and it was all for their entertainment, if you like.
the thing is, yeah, they specifically said to us to make it flashy. So I was trying to make rolls more difficult by doing flips. Or maybe
Yep.
I was punching the thing with my fists, even though it was this giant monster. You know, like
Doing
things like
uppercuts.
yeah. I did an uppercut on its chin, knocked a bit of panel off of it. But the thing is,
Yeah,
is that and the sort of the monsters have been declawed, so to speak. So we were just what we were trying to do was create an entertaining show. It's a bit like bullfighting where they tire out the bull first. It was a little bit like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was very clever.
Yeah, and it was great fun. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And then obviously they won. They done 3 rounds of the gauntlet, and then have been heralded as champions. And the tower, they've won the tower over finally. They've everyone's
So
singing
everyone
their
thinks
name.
that Guardians are cool, and my character has an unbelievably long name. It's Percival
Oh my
Gregory Nikolai Ramtree, like all these words. So the thing is he was trying to get a chant going instead of just Percival. He was like Percival Ramtree Nikolai
Nicholas
Gregory.
Rabbitry, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's so good. It was so good. So they're all knackered, and they're gonna go to the pub to celebrate.
Yeah, we got free drinks on our employers, so that's next session. We're gonna get fucked up.
But I hope you enjoyed it so far.
Oh,
It's awesome, and I think that I love the setting, and the whole convention idea was very, very clever and well put together, because it was all just like really fun shit to do in an RPG, like over the course of 2 games. You know, it was really fun.
Wicked. I'm so pleased.
But I've been
enjoying it.
I've been continuing to play my Saturday game, Old School
Yes.
Essentials, Basic Expert D&D. Had a pretty funny one last time because my character Triona Lizard Dealer, he died sadly.
Oh yeah,
Um,
shit. R.I.P.
Yeah, he just got absolutely munted off. So I started a new character, Tell the Powerless, who was this really
Tell the powerless. That sounds like an instruction.
yeah, exactly.
Tell them.
I mean, he was really, really terrible. We went to try and fight these rust monsters. I got my arse handed to me. The stupidest thing is that they can rust armor, and there was a magnet in the middle of the room that would magnet anyone with armor to the floor. And there was a point where I'd forgotten what was going on in the fight, so I sort of
mate.
one of my friends, this guy called Cyrilius, he's a vampire, and he's basically our leader. He runs into the room, drags me out. My armor's sort of like almost rotted off, but I've still got a bit of it left. And then as he drags me out, it gets to my turn, right, maybe 10 minutes later, and I'm just like, all right, I'm going to run in and punch that fucker. And of course, Jeff, being the GM, he doesn't tell me. He doesn't go like, oh yeah, you remember what, there's a magnet on the floor in there. He just goes, right, you run in and you smack against the floor. And I'm like, so I just got out there, and then I went back in. It's my fault. I was being a fucking idiot. I must have been tired or something.
That is fun.
Never mind, mate. But fun, nonetheless.
Yeah, it's really good, and my character Tell the Powerless ended up dying as well. So
Oh, no.
I'm really struggling to get out of the gate of level 1. The funniest thing is, as I said, we've taken over a castle, right? And the castle has got a dungeon underneath it, right? And part of it is guarded by these two hellhounds, these sort of lava-spitting dogs, right?
Nasty.
And so what I did is I put on some of the clothes belonging to the old owner of the castle to go in and try and soothe the dogs, right? But my character had a 6 in charisma. So
Wow.
he's basically the most unlikable person on the planet. So I waltzed into the room and I actually said to Jeff, because all of us were standing outside the room, nobody was fucking doing anything because everyone's scared of dying. I just went, right, that's it. I stride confidently into the room. And then, of course, the dogs, my charisma roll fails, the dogs bite me, Tell dies.
Oh no.
So the two guys that were left, they said to us, they said, okay, well, we'll go and investigate this other thing instead, because we got another lead about an ice wizard, right? So they go outside, they call a taxi, and it's my next character driving the taxi. So I'm now, yeah, it was pretty funny. So I'm now playing basically a hag, a witch, whose name I can't fucking remember at the moment, but literally I just went taxi, and that was it. I turned up outside. But
Excellent.
she's at least a bit more capable. I've got cure wounds, cause wounds, and things like this, and I did kill somebody already, which is, and just to wrap the story up, it was pretty funny. One of the last things we did, we go into this tomb that was supposedly a tomb of an ice wizard, and I stumble into this room, and somebody's just living in there. But I had Detect Evil on, right? So I shook her hand, and I was just like, hello, nice to meet you. Shook her hand, and then behind her, I see that covering a cage of monsters that are evil, they start glowing because I've got Detect Evil on. So holding her hand, I just went, right, cause wounds. Nearly killed her, and then I just went, signal, signal, signal. And the rest of the team run in, and the hunter just shot him in the head. And Jeff the GM kept telling us, he was like, okay, so the unarmed woman that you just killed, she has this on her. No, that's back in the room where you killed that unarmed woman. And we're like,
Oh, nice.
Stop rubbing it in, man. I thought she
Jeff.
was going to release evil lizards onto me, all right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great game,
We're in
man.
a cage for a reason.
Sounds
Oh, yeah,
really
exactly. Nobody dwelling in a cave is good. Fact. And also, all skeletons are evil. Can we just say that?
Oh, I don't know about that. It's a bit of a
a bit
sweeping
of a-
comment, isn't it? A bit of a sweeping comment.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
In this current climate, I don't think it's right to make assumptions about skeletons.
Correct.
Some of you are right.
That's true.
But yeah, it's a great game, and I have to say this is the first time. I mean, I've played in a lot of sandbox games, but this is the first time I've played in one that really, even the GM doesn't really focus on a plot. All of it is made by us. All the plots, everything is made by us. All it is just a big world for us to explore. There's and there's so many adventure hooks going on at the moment that we don't
That's
know
the
which
best.
one to do. So
Yeah.
it's such a fucking good game, man. I enjoy the hell out of it. So and I think Old School Essentials, the box set, it must be bought, because it really gives a lot of freedom to players, and is a very simple but good system with
A
just the level of
player-powered
crunch.
game. Player-powered game.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the thing is, when you have a game where you let players on the loose, they're always going to have fun. You know what I mean?
And so are you as a GM, let's be honest, normally.
Yeah.
Unless you need new friends.
Fucking James, you've played a bit of Old School Essentials. Just as a system, what do you think of it?
It reminds me quite a bit of the nicest parts of DCC.
I was about to say out of
'cause
DCC.
It's rules light in that regard. Like, it's pretty simple to grasp. Because Layla played it when we'd had our outside social distance session the other
James's
day.
daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And it
was
was
that
really,
what you
really
guys
good.
were playing? Was you playing Old School Essentials in Zib Open Spaces? Was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one,
It's
yeah,
because he chose a system that was just a little bit easier, and it actually fit really well as well. So it gives you a lot of freedom, depending on obviously what you plan on doing. But it's super, super, super easy. For
Correct me
a
if
brand
I'm
new
wrong,
player.
but this is an old rule set that's so good it's stood up to the test of time.
It's basically kept the entirety of the OSR floating, because most OSR games are a clone of this game.
Smash him.
Well, not Old School Essentials, but Old School Essentials itself is a clone of Basic Expert D&D.
Yes, I know that one.
Which was an old version of D&D that had a basic version, an expert version. You can combine them together, and yeah, it's a fun game, and like, I've never really gotten into a game where you have to roll under your stat to succeed. But in this game you do, and actually it's really fucking good. Because
Yeah,
if
it's
you've got
awesome.
an 18, you need to roll under an 18 to succeed. And then you can have a +4 if it's easy, or a -4 if it's hard, because it adds onto your stat rather than the roll.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's
so
it's banging. Imagine that, 18 plus 4. That's it. You've done it already.
And that means, so if you've got a high score in something and you're adding that +4, if you're trying to, it sort of favours, I guess, strategic ways of doing things, or it makes it more obvious for players, I should say. Yeah, it's a fun fucking game, and I'm enjoying the piss out of it. So yeah, and check out the Necrotic Gnome store.
Yeah.
I nearly bought a T-shirt with a Necrotic Gnome on it the other day.
It's pretty cool.
No way.
Yeah, I think I might treat myself, put it on my Christmas list. But I definitely like I like the box set. It's very nice, very very nice indeed.
It's beautiful, man, and it's just nice because every time I run a fucking game, I print out the rulebook and put it in a binder so that I can have a copy to hand out to players if they need it. And this book, like, everything's sectioned into its own little book. So if I wanted to hand out the spells, I just fucking hand it out. So
Yeah,
very very
cool.
handy, and it's also done in a really modern style with no bullshit. So, for example, a goblin, there's no big entry on a goblin. It just says, little green guys that dwell in caves. Here's his stats. And I like that.
Yeah, nice.
Yes.
Yeah, you fill
that is
in the
good.
gaps yourself.
Short and sweet.
I've just got to quickly talk about TriCube Tales, our sponsor for this episode. So it's not actually sponsored, but he did send us a free one. So pretty much he's going to
Yes.
get a good review. Richard Woolcock, designer of Saga of the Goblin Horde, has made a super simple game called TriCube Tales because it uses 3 dice. So it's a really fucking cool game, and what he did is he utilised phone-sized PDFs, which is a new thing Drive-Thru RPG were doing at the time, and decided to make a phone-sized PDF based on a game that he made to play games with his son, who's like 1 or something. I think he's a bit older than that. But
A
anyway,
bit older than that now.
the game is really simple. You just kind of pick an archetype, a descriptor, a quirk, and a flaw, right? And then you roll 3d6 against a target number from 4 to 6. So 4 is easy, 5 is routine, 6 is hard. And what you want to do is get 1 dice over that amount. And you can have between 1 to 3 dice at a time. Depending on what's going on. So if you do something based on the class you've picked and your attribute, you get 3 dice. If it's something you have absolutely nothing to do with, like maybe your flaw is represented somehow in this roll, you get 1 dice.
Yep.
And
I see.
that's pretty much it. And then, like, sort of health and your reroll tokens, it's all represented by tokens because he wanted a visual aid to use for his son. And it's really, really fucking good. So if you were creating a character, all you do is you go, I'm playing a gunslinger who's really brave. And his quirk is that he can smell a type... He can identify a brand of tobacco by smell. His flaw is that he hates...
Tobacco.
Yeah, he hates it. Yeah, there you go. So, I don't know, something like that. And it's just super fucking simple. And then there you go, you've got a character. And I think it's a good one for if you're going to whip out a game that you play for an hour and a half or 2 hours or something like that.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you one thing that is not super fucking simple.
Go on.
Richard Woolcock's brain.
There you go. Nice. Nice. You hear that, Richie?
Genius.
So, yeah.
Big brain.
He's got a big brain. He's a fucking great game designer. So this
He
TriCube
is.
Tales, just check it out because you can fit it in your fucking pocket. Well, it will be if you get the phone version as well, and you can play it at a moment's notice with minimal materials. So yeah, fucking awesome.
People will love you
The
for
actual
it.
book itself is it's like shirt pocket size, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. So you could keep it in your shirt pocket. You go to work, people are like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "Sit down, get a pen."
I'm like, well then,
You'll see a lunch.
on our lunch break.
Man, that'd be so fucking cool to play D&D on your lunch break. Actually, no, it wouldn't, because when
Yeah,
I
it would.
was working my last job, I just played D&D while I was supposed to be working. So
There you go. There you go.
Well, I mean, no, it wouldn't. That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what got you
Shut
back
up.
into
It's
it,
a
isn't
good
it?
thing.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
right, let's do a main subject, shall we?
Please.
Main. Subject. Magic. Main. Subject. Tokyo. Main. Subject.
Okay.
So you want?
With my permission.
Shut up, James.
Sorry.
God.
God.
Fucking hello. Do you remember when people used to do that as a kid, where they'd add that?
Oh yes! Oh my god, dude!
Yeah. Fuck psycho. Actually, we are
So annoying.
no, we've got a funny story to tell about that. This is so unrelated to the podcast, but it's really fucking funny. We used to do this thing to annoy one of our friends, where we'd come up with nicknames for him and ask him if we could refer to him by that name, right? So he'd be like, "Yo, can I call you Chungus?" And he'd be like, "No, you can't call me Chungus." And there was one point where James went, "Can I call you? Hey, name here." He goes, "Hey, can I call you?" And the guy goes, "You can't call me Tuh." And then James went, "Oh, no, it was t-. And he goes, "Well, you can't call me t- then."
All right.
It was so funny because he shouted so loudly. He's like, "You can't call me then!"
Yeah. Oh, God, what a stupid story. We were idiots.
Oh my god.
All right, so
Still are.
Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting.
So you want to run an RPG based on your favourite show, Seinfeld, or your favourite book, Seinfeld the novelisation, but you take a look at the internet and there's no Seinfeld RPG, or maybe you turn to an open system like GURPS and find there's no fan-made GURPS version out there, or that the fan-made stuff is just plain shitty. We've all been there, and in fact, I was there last night when I found that the only earnest attempt to adapt Resident Evil to an RPG was using Genesis. Dun dun dun.
Oh no.
Exactly, oh no.
Oh no.
And that's probably the worst possible system for that setting. So, what do you do then? Well, if you want to play Seinfeld as an RPG, you're going to have to do it yourself. And while it's easy to look at some fan-made adaptations and think converting your favourite media to an RPG is a monumental task, I can assure you it fucking isn't. And we're going to demonstrate today how to adapt everything you like to an RPG pain-free. How we're going to do this, what we've done is we've picked, James is going to give his comments on a player, what he likes to see from an adaptation. Me and Nick, we like to GM, so we're going to talk about how we would do an adaptation, and we both picked the same property to do because we think it would be interesting to kind of see how each of us would adapt it. And the property that we picked is BioShock, because it's something both of us are intimately familiar with. So that means before we get started, I'll have to give a quick rundown as to what the BioShock world is like and what BioShock is. And can it be used as a wall insulation? So,
maybe.
We're asking the real questions here, okay? Alright. BioShock is a video game released in 2007 by 2K Boston. It's set in an underwater city called Rapture, which was created in the 1940s. It's a sprawling network of vast deep-sea transparent tunnels and open areas. It's billed as a kind of utopia and was founded by the objectivist businessman Andrew Ryan, who bans all contact with the outside world and wishes for a society to exist outside of governmental control. Down in Rapture, science advances hugely, and the discovery of a substance called Adam is made. This genetic material, found in sea slugs, basically grants superpowers akin to magic. And these substances, which are distilled and made into plasmids, are injected into the user. So you eject it, you get powers. Everyone's happy. And the example it gives actually in the game, in the loading screens, is there's one... I think the spell's called Pyro, and it's like you can shoot fire out of your hands, but the loading screens show that in-universe adverts for it, and it's like a guy lighting a cigarette from his own hand.
It's really good. It's very if you can picture Vault Boy in them kind of little adverts for superpowers, it's very much akin to that, isn't it?
Yeah.
With them kind of
got that proper
information video feel to it, or whatever, public service broadcast bit feel.
That's
to
exactly what it's like. Yeah. So anyway, the utopia of Rapture obviously doesn't last long, as a former gangster called Frank Fontaine plans a coup to take over Rapture. Fontaine gets immense wealth by doing black market deals with the surface world and ultimately creates cheap plasmids by implanting Adam slugs into little girls called Little Sisters. Anyway, Fontaine tried to attack Andrew Ryan, failed, and then Ryan took his factories and shit. That's what happened, so Don't try it. Anyway, turns out there was a second coup by a bloke called Atlas from the lower classes who led an attack on Andrew Ryan, targeting the factories that held Little Sisters. The trouble is, Andrew Ryan responded by creating steampunk mechs called Big Daddies. And these fuckers have state-of-the-art weaponry, drills for hands, and their plasmid-enhanced pilots are surgically woven into the machines permanently. Additionally, Andrew Ryan fought back with splicers, obedient plasmid zombies controlled by pheromones in Rapture's air conditioning. Anyway, long story short, Atlas attacked Ryan on New Year's Eve 1958, and so many people died the Utopia crumpled, and the few people that were left that managed to cling to sanity went into hiding, trying to survive in a destroyed underwater city where insane mechs and zombies roamed the halls. And in the game, you play a bloke that crashes in the ocean. He ends up there. Oh dear.
Oh dear.
So, yeah, and you basically, the gameplay is like navigating a city, shooting shit, injecting yourself with superpowers, and trying not to die, basically. And it's a horror game, which we like. So
Yes, it is.
That's what I'm talking about. So, yeah, Bioshock. Nick, give me the lowdown, right? You want to, your players are begging you. Nick, I want to run a Bioshock game. Not run it, play it.
Oh, yeah. If the players want to run a game, I'll be like, right, we got this all wrong. Straight up, familiarise yourself with the content. Obviously, if it's something that you're familiar with already, then all the better. But do a little bit of homework or replay the game. In this instance, with Bioshock, get a feel for it straight away. We're quite lucky with this kind of medium because it is a computer game, so it's kind of immersive to start off with already. So you've got a bit of kind of framework done for you straight away. But yeah, what would I? So I would obviously understand the tone of the game and try and move that over to a role-playing game. Especially if people are already familiar with it, they want to say, like we're saying, Bioshock, they know the game, they know the kind of how creepy it is and stuff.
Well,
so
this is what I was saying about fucking Genesis and Resident Evil. It's a really poor choice for a system, for a game.
Very bad.
It is really bad for a horror thing like that. I mean, because Genesis was all about taking 5 years to fucking roll and coming up with all these story reasons. And Resident Evil isn't a story-heavy game. It's exploration. It's killing. So, system choice for you, Nick, what would it be?
100%. So, system choice for me, for Bioshock, well, Cypher would work. I know, obviously, because I keep saying Cypher, but Cypher would work for that. You've got, you've already got mechanics in place for like the items, for the plasmids, especially. I mean, to me, plasmids, because they're permanent, that suggests to me spells. Yeah. In a way, so that's how you would use them mechanically, and obviously just dress them up as plasmids. But they would, for me, work much like spells. But yeah, I reckon either Cypher or, I mean, Cthulhu could work.
Actually, that's a pretty good shout. I didn't really think of that.
Yeah, that sounds quite good.
Because it's a very investigative. I mean, the whole premise of Bioshock is that classic, the thing that I absolutely love, and I would do it the same as the players starting them up. Much like the video game, guy crashes in a plane, he lands into the water, washes up on Rapture, and has to discover it, what happened from an outsider's perspective, and that would be the absolute tone of my game: investigation, not knowing what's going on, and trying to understand the world. So I wouldn't explain Rapture to them. I'd let the players discover it all themselves, and depending on how deep they go into the investigation would govern how much of the world and the story they uncover. Obviously there'd be a lot that comes at them, so they'd understand that way, but if they wanted to take their time to look into it, because the thing about Bioshock is it is absolutely full of Art Deco, nostalgic kind of swinging 40s, or was it, or whatever, 40s and 50s kind of time period music.
I can't remember if it's actually set in, because the Rapture basically got fucked up in 1958, and I can't remember if it's like a guy from modern times who ends up there.
I'm not sure, to be fair. It could be. I mean,
well, it could be either, because then you could use modern Cthulhu or old Cthulhu.
Of course you could, yeah, exactly. So they both work. Or even more fun, if you're a modern from a modern time, but you're going to Rapture, and it's obviously because with Rapture it's frozen in that time it was created. So it's almost like going into a time warp anyway. So it wouldn't really. I mean, it could be an interesting angle if obviously you bring a little bit of tech with you from the normal time to give you a kind of little bit of not an advantage, but at least more of a level playing field against these, mutated monsters. So that would be interesting, especially because, yeah, it's sometime after. In this place, this rapture has just been like, fermenting for years under the sea with no outside interaction. So, yeah, I would definitely go down the investigation horror angle for Bioshock, 100%, I think.
Well, yeah, because there is a bit of that in Bioshock, actually. Kind of like, there might be points where, for example, you're trying to find the location of something, so you have to venture over to a certain bloke's old office and find notes on his desk and shit. And I actually think that's a really cracking idea. But
yeah, that would be fun.
Let's say, for example, then, okay, so you've picked your system, you understand what your players are going to do, you're trying to keep the tone consistent. How then do you go about statting the monsters and the shit from the game? What would your strategy be, Nick?
Well, if I'm using Cypher, it's very, very nice, because obviously you just give it a level, which is really, really, really simple, and obviously the level just determines how powerful the monster's got to be. And I would just stick true to the game. So, like you said, Big Daddies are walking around. They're basically, for anybody who doesn't know what a Big Daddy looks like, them old kind of deep sea diving suits where they used to have like a porthole on the front.
Yeah.
They look like giant things wearing them, basically, with like drill hands and stuff, like you said. So, again, they would be, they're armoured, they're heavy. I would just level them up with using Cypher, and then anything that they have as moves within the game, I would then trap as moves within Cypher's system. So for me, it'd be pretty straightforward, I think, for the statting. Just take them straight out, all the creatures. So get all the enemies from Bioshock, because there's loads in there. They're all pretty unique. Get Phil if you want to make some of your own. By all means, you've got the kind of blueprint.
So you're saying what
there.
You might do is like you just take a monster from the book, say Cthulhu or Cypher, and then just truss it up. So it's basically you just take the stats of something, and then that's what it is in the game. You just rename it, re-describe it.
Yeah, I'd rename it. And some of the moves, I'd obviously, if it's got like unique signature moves, then I would obviously add them. Or 9 times out of 10, you'll find some sort of move a creature can do that's kind of similar. And if it's just described a little bit differently, the mechanic's going to be the same, isn't it? Cypher's nice and easy, does a flat amount of damage depending on what the move is. So, quite straightforward. Especially if you're tied for time or you want to try and get this off the ground quite quickly, then again, you've got a bestiary already in Cypher. It's quite a range of different creatures and monsters, and you're going to link up the creatures from Bioshock to one of these. So that's a nice, easy way to do it.
I'm fairly certain they'd all be represented in Cypher. I mean, what's a splicer? It's a fast zombie. What's a guy with a gun? Well, it's a guy with a fucking gun. And a Big Daddy is to pick any big fucking really hard to kill monster from the book and just give it a fucking really deadly few attacks,
I think there might even be a mech in there as well, so you could use it like that.
Well, it is a fucking mech, so yeah, why the hell not?
So that would be that, and that's how I'd step off with them. And obviously, if you want to put your own little twist on it, or you've got some kind of cool ideas, because once you've statted a few monsters, you'll start wanting to make more. Of course, you do. We all do as GMs, don't we? So
right.
You can have different variations of the same type of creature, but maybe one of them's a nice one, maybe one of them's... Because the beauty of Bioshock is that all these monsters and creatures have basically messed about with their own body so much with these plasmids that they've become so crazy and mutated that all of them have different types of powers. So, it's endless. Think magic. One of them maybe explodes, like in Destiny. If it's killed, it's an exploding type one. That all comes once you've got your framework of your enemies. You can then start adding variations, because there's so many variations in Bioshock. So it makes it really straightforward. And just think of that claustrophobic feeling. Really push that feeling of you're underwater. One of these tunnels could just cave in at any time. There's no maintenance been going on in Rapture for years. The place is crumbling. Make the players feel that, that damp smell, the dripping water, the dead ends, seeing all the big sharks and fish floating past the open tunnels to make you feel really kind of insignificant and out of your depth.
So
pun intended.
Realistically, then your conversion is actually quite simple. You're just it's all flavour for you, and
yes,
that's about it.
For me, I would say so. Yeah, definitely. I mean, with Bioshock, I'd definitely consider the plasmid side, and obviously with the whole players being able to mod their self to however they like, that would be fun as well. So make sure there's plenty of plasmids. But again, Cypher system works perfectly like that. A plasmid could be a artifact, or it could be a Cypher. It could be a temporary one that gives you a temporary molecular boost to some sort of to your body in some sort of way. But I would definitely bring the flavour.
In an RPG, a plasmid can just be a spell, as you said. But the thing is, what you can do is you've got loads more plasmids than the actual game has there. So pretty
Exactly.
cool.
Yeah, of course you have. Exactly. So you could add more, and yeah, so it would definitely be flavour wise. I mean, and again, and the beauty of a computer game is, which is like with Destiny, which I really enjoy, is computer games are made up of plenty of missions, and all the missions have a small story to them. So use them. You don't have to wholesale steal them, but you can use the storylines from the video games that you've played and just change them to make them an interesting RPG game.
My brother does that with Fallout. He just wholesale he just has the wiki open and just takes the quests out of that.
There you go. See, I like to put my own little spin on it a little bit, so I would probably take a mission, like some of the missions that you guys have done in Destiny are some way related to video game missions, but I've kind of changed and put my own spin on them. But you've got that hard work done, so don't get disheartened that you've got to write a whole game and a whole system and make your favourite content work in a game. It's not the case. Most of it's probably been done for you.
It's all flavour. I mean, the thing is, if you're looking down at a monster in your book, the players don't know that you're actually looking at the entry for Ogre and they're fighting a Big Daddy because you've told them they're fighting a Big Daddy.
That's it, exactly that. And that is the biggest thing for me, is that feel and that flavour.
All right, well, I think that's pretty good. I think actually we're kind of similar in that regard, where it's more about flavour than it is making new shit up. But here's how I would do it, and I think some people are going to say that it's a bit of a cop out, but. So my big tip, my big fucking tip for all conversions and adaptations, because I've done a couple, is distill the nug. Okay.
Ooh.
So you've got to understand what's good about that game and how it works in an RPG. You've got to cut out the elements that don't work. And don't necessarily try to adapt everything that made it good as a video game. Rather, try to understand which aspects will work when you're playing at a table. To give an example of how somebody did it badly, there was a Batman campaign that we played in a while ago, or a Gotham campaign, and the guy had no experience with Batman, but he was basing it on the video games. And in the video games, countering attacks is a big thing. Now, I thought it was a genius fucking idea when this guy used Call of Cthulhu to run his game, because it fits. Gotham is very noir, and we were playing street level, pretty normal dudes. And as a result, I thought it was a great choice for a system. But then when the combat started up, which isn't very good in Call of Cthulhu, and he put in this stupid crap system of countering in there because it's in the video game, it doesn't fucking belong in Call of Cthulhu. It doesn't belong in an investigative campaign set in noir, city. So that was an aspect of what I've seen that it's done badly. And what you need to do is get aspects from the game that do work in a tabletop. And Bioshock is a blend of exploration, interesting tactical combat with the use of spells and shit, and horror. And all of those work in an RPG, so it's a pretty good fucking choice. But certain elements don't work and needn't be converted. For example, in Bioshock there's a respawn system. And they give an in-universe reason, not just load your last save, but actually when you die you get molecularly remade in this pod.
Oh, in them chambers. Yeah, that's right.
I would strip that right the fuck
interesting.
out. It
doesn't
is
work.
interesting, but the thing is that there's no horror when you've got that setting on, so I always turn it off.
That's true.
Yeah,
that is true.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're just gonna come back, then you're just like, I don't like this bit. I'll kill myself.
Yeah, I mean,
go to respawn somewhere else.
Exactly.
And avoid it instead.
In Destiny, it works because that's the whole thing of you guys being superhuman, and your ghost state can respawn you. And again, there's still kind of rules within that to make it not easy, but it does work.
We're trying to save humanity, so the way it works there is that we could still fail a mission. All of us could die. We might respawn, but it gets harder and harder to respawn as we go along.
Yeah.
And if we fuck something up, humanity gets fucked. But it's a different game. That's a game about heroics, and
heroics, precisely. Yeah.
So I just don't think the respawn thing definitely wouldn't fucking work. Another aspect
100%.
is the little sisters in the video game. They're each paired with a big daddy that protects them, and so to get the girls and either harvest them or rescue them, you have to take on a big daddy. And if you harvest them, therefore killing these little girls, it's a pretty grim game.
You have a choice. You have a choice. You can either kill them or you can save them. If you kill them, you get more of what you're trying to get out of them. If you save them, you get less. But obviously, ethically and you feel morally is like, I saved a little kid. Right. But that's the choice that you have to make within Bioshock, which is cool.
That works. But I don't think it necessarily translates to an RPG entirely well, because here's why. the idea of killing big daddies, these new ultra hard mechanical nightmares to get new powers, is interesting. But the trouble is that that's going to become stale pretty fast, especially once the players figure out a way to kill them. It might take a while, but I think what you got to do in that case is try to vary it. That's what I would do anyway. Is that I've got two simple fixes for this problem of it being repetitive, right? And the first is that I'd have a larger variety of big daddies. Maybe even some lesser types that protect a single little sister in a group, and some ultra hard ones that maybe protect a group of little sisters. Or, maybe there's a mission to retrieve one that hasn't got its big daddy with it, and she's like running away in vents and things like this.
That's what I was going to say. That's exactly what I was going to say. I like the little sister idea, and it's great in the game, but it would be more of a mission or story plot point rather than an actual mechanic for me.
Yeah, and or like loads of different missions or whatever. And my other idea is simply to design interesting encounters regarding little sisters. Perhaps one, like I said, that's lost her protector, or one that's been captured by splicers and is minutes away from being harvested by all of them. Something like this. Like loads of different ways to collect them throughout the game would be fun.
Yeah.
And that I'm fully aware, James, as a person that doesn't know this game, the fact that you kill little girls to get power is fucking horrible. And believe me, it caused a lot of fuss at the time when the game came out.
I'm sure it did.
It's fantastic.
I'm sure it did. I mean, to be honest though, it's something like I know we're talking about adaptations, but that kind of gruesome, sort of really sort of messed up stuff is something that I quite sort of enjoy. I'm not saying I'm going to enjoy killing little kids. I'm saying because it's like thematically it's messed up. It's like, oh my god, this is so messed up.
The thing is, in the game as well, you don't see what happens, but the animation. The screen kind of blacks out when you do it, but it's a first-person game. Your right hand comes up holding the little girl, and the other one sort of forms this like claw, and then your hand just sort of dashes towards her.
No,
it's fucking horrible, man. But it's good.
Horrible. So you don't see it, but you've done the bad.
You hear it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's fucking awesome.
Okay, yeah, no, that's decent. Like, understand obviously the game mechanics behind why you do it, but yeah, it's I can understand why it caused that.
But the cool thing is, though, spoiler. The cool thing is if you get to the end without having killed a single one, a bunch of them come out and help you. So it's pretty fucking cool.
Yes,
anyway,
indeed they do, yeah.
Now I've kind of got like the essence of the game I want to run. It's going to be an exploratory horror set in a dead civilization, and the acquisition of powers by fighting big daddies is going to be a big part of it. So how do I go about translating that into a game? Appropriate systems, statting, all of that shit, and figuring out any new class options. Well, my method is basically a bit of a cop-out, but it is the simplest way to do it, and it's quite similar to Nick's, and I've had a lot of success with this method. And the method is, I don't really do any of that. Okay, so if I wanted to run a Bioshock game, I'd just take the themes and story and convert that, exactly the same as Nick. So let's say my system of choice is Old School Essentials, which you've been talking about, Basic Expert D&D. I keep everything the fucking same, but I ban magic users and say maybe it's a low magic setting. Rapture is mostly the same thematically, except Andrew Ryan is actually Andrew Thundermaker, a dwarven king who fled to traditional society and started an undersea fortress with the help of the brightest minds in dwarfdom. Plasmids now have the same name, but they're potions, and instead grant the imbiber one new spell appropriate to their level. So, if a character drinks a plasmid equal to their level, they gain that spell. So, say for example, level 1, you might get a magic missile plasmid, etc., etc.
I suppose what you're doing is you're translating it to something that RPGers are more used to, especially tabletop RPGers. Like
especially a bunch of D&Ders. God,
right,
yeah.
There you go,
if you were like, they were like sci-fi, what? And then you run it like this.
Yeah, you could easily have it like say act the same way, but put the mechanics in exactly how you're doing, but have the mechanics behind it. But say that they are the plasmids and all that stuff. But by just saying that they're potions, it's a lot easier to understand, especially if you're not familiar with the game.
This is partly
totally.
why I enjoy running fantasy, because everyone gets it straight away. There's no high concept stuff in there, so that's part of the reason I do enjoy it. But yeah, and basically in this, Adam replaces experience points. So if you harvest or rescue, you get some XP, and then leveling up will allow you access to better plasmids and therefore better spells. Simple as that.
Very
So
good.
basically, everyone's playing combat classes. In the case of old school essentials, it'll be thieves, acrobats, assassins, monks, fighters, all these types of people. But they can get powers, which will be really fucking fun.
And that's the hook, isn't it? The fact that you start off as non-magic people, but you have the ability to become magic users through the playing of this game.
Exactly.
Cool. That's
So,
very cool. That's
yeah.
all I'd need as a punchline. If that was the tagline to get to someone like a GM trying to sell a game, it's like, right, you start off as like normal people, but by the end you'll probably be magic users. I'll be like,
Yeah, I mean,
please.
think about the last boss in Bioshock. Again, spoiler, but it turns out Atlas was subtly hypnotising you the whole time to do everything he wanted, and he's now a fucking
is
super
kindly.
mutant because he's taken so many bloody plasmids. So think about that. That super mutant plasmid dude that's like a big blue dude, Bamboozle. He is. That's basically like a level 15 D&D character, right? I mean,
Yeah.
anyway, Big Daddies are going to be exactly the same. They're just dwarven tech, but I mean, they already look pretty dwarven anyway, so fuck it. And to go about statting them, I would do exactly the same as Nick. I just use the stats for a golem for Big Daddies. For splicers, I just use zombies, but made them fast. And for regular folk, I just use the stats for normal folk in the book. And there we go. But no, I see. It seems like a cop-out, but doing this allows you to make changes and be immune to continuity lawyers. Actually, that kind of happened because Frank Fontaine wasn't there at this time, so yeah, suck my dick. This isn't Bioshock. This is a fantasy world.
Yeah.
And, I just want to explain that I've done this before and had success with it because I did a campaign based on Earthbound in Call of Cthulhu, and Earthbound is a game all about playing children, and it's about loss of innocence, going on a big journey. It's mostly a comedy game with some dark elements. But one of the things about Earthbound is that there's these golden statues under the city that are making people act insane, and that's perfect for a Call of Cthulhu game. So that's what I fucking did. I adapted it to
Very
Call
good.
of Cthulhu.
Get it. I finally understand where that came from. Fuck me, man. That's amazing.
That was our first ever campaign.
Yeah, and the thing is that I can take all the elements of the thing I like, and I don't have to make it completely consistent with the games, because that way I can put my own twist in it. I can change things if I want, and people won't be disappointed that their favourite shit isn't turning up. So I don't know.
Exactly.
That's the way I do it. That's the way I do it, especially for a game like that. I mean, it's So I just think I prefer to take the whole idea and pass it off as something I made, basically. So
Yeah. No, it's great. It's good. It's a good way.
I wanted to kind of make this episode to get that point across, because people have such a misconception that, like, fucking look at the Savage Worlds Facebook group, right? The biggest group of fucking idiots on the planet, right? And they every week.
It is
How many
true,
times a week do we see
unfortunately.
fucking somebody should Savage this? Somebody should make this into a Savage Worlds game, and you're like, mate, you've got the fucking system right there to do it. It's way easier than you think, and yet people
That
are just
somebody
like,
can be you.
yeah, well, exactly. I mean, you don't need to put much work in.
The thing is, you don't need to savage it, because that's the thing, isn't it? You know, it's like, so you got savaged Fallout,
Yeah.
which is probably the best savaging that exists.
But the thing is,
I
it's
think.
not that far from core. If that didn't exist, you can
Not at
still
all.
easily play Fallout in Savage Worlds.
Exactly, yeah, you can. They've just done some extra tweaks and stuff to make it perfect.
And I think actually,
But,
I'm going to mention Bobby Evans now. All right. Oh God, I'm so sorry. No, but actually, to his credit, he does a series where he demonstrates in 10 minutes how you can savage something. He's done fucking My Little Pony.
Okay.
He's done Star Wars. He's done The Mandalorian. And his rule is that you can only use core to do it, and he shows you how to do it. And to me, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Okay,
it
that's pretty good though.
Yeah, it's a cool series.
That he's done that.
So
I
we
think,
want to see less. Someone should savage this, and more. I've savaged this.
Yeah, or just
and this is how I did it.
because it's way easier than people
We
think.
just put savage at the front,
Yeah.
and that's it. It's done.
Would it be worth? Would it be worth putting the link to that 10-minute Savage thing?
I
somewhere?
might, if he's got a playlist out there. But me linking Bobby Evans is sort of an admission of defeat in my ongoing war with him, so I don't know.
Well, you can cut this out.
Ongoing war. Ongoing turf
What I'll do
war.
is I'll just bleep his name out.
There you go.
No,
Perfect.
that's wrong. I don't mind Bobby really, but yeah, James,
No,
as
we're
a
real
player and a one-time DM who actually did do an adaptation there, what kind of things do you want to see when you sit down to play a game, and or what tips have you got there, James?
Right, so I'm going to start from the top, and it's one of the first things Harrison actually mentioned. If you are going to adapt something, and I learned this the hard way as my short stint as a DM, do not copy the full thing. Don't do that. And obviously, Baptism of Fire, I had to go through it to understand it. And like I said, now that I've sort of sat, to be honest, I've sat as a player my entire RPG career, so to speak. But to see different systems and different GMs and stuff is pretty phenomenal. It's still daunting to me, but I'll pick up a campaign again at some point.
Hey.
But yeah, it kind of, in my opinion, it depends what you're wanting to adapt and how. If you want to adapt something for the story that the thing had in the first place, or if you wanted to adapt something just for the familiarity, like you know that every single player you're going to do it for already know what it is, and do you want them to just know everything about it already and have fun with that, or do you want to take the story, make it into something different, and just sort of like play through the story arc or something, but kind of change everything?
Yeah,
You know,
that's
like,
cool. Yeah.
You two have said that, well, you specifically, as Harrison, like you said that you've taken sort of elements and you've taken sort of a section, say, of like Earthbound and the Golden Statue and that section there, and then because you've just placed that bit in there, it has the same kind of story behind what the Golden Statue does, but because it's just that snippet, everything else is whatever. But if you actually embedded it in, and all of us players had played Earthbound, and all of us knew that Golden Statue, we knew everything it did, then we could be like, really just sit there and be like, oh my god, this is awesome, I'm playing through this section of Earthbound, and like, it depends if you know that your player's going to enjoy that.
That's just it. You know, it's either if you're trying to use it as a story device simply to be there, or if you're literally trying to go, okay, we're playing this and everyone's familiar with it. Either works, really, I guess.
Well, yeah, there's homage, isn't there? And then there's kind of using. So
Yeah,
if you do,
exactly.
like you said, like it's like Savage Mr. Bean. Everyone knows Mr. Bean. You know, it's homage to Mr. Bean. We all know how that's going to go.
Somebody I used to work with said I looked like Mr. Bean. I was
Shut
What's
up.
annoying is Rowan Atkinson. He's actually somewhat handsome, but Mr. Bean.
Yeah.
It's those stupid faces he pulls. People said I look like that. Fuck me. Really knocked my confidence. That did.
Oh, bless you.
You're
That was,
beautiful.
that was also before I met my wife as well, and I hadn't even spoken to a lady in about 5 years. So horrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Carry on, James.
That's all right. That's all right. So one thing that I've sort of noticed and I enjoy, and like I said, experience both ways, but mostly as a player. If you like want to copy characters from things, like I would say, again, it all goes to how you want to adapt it. But if you copy characteristics of characters,
Yeah.
then that's a much better idea. But again, you know, if you want the familiarity, you can literally just completely copy a character, slap them in, and just know that the players are going to be like, oh, I know that person, and then they'll enjoy it. If you think
I found in my experience though, it's impossible not for players to not metagame when they know a character.
Yeah, but again, it literally just goes to like, I know that you've built games for metagamers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
you just
one-shots,
tackle that.
'cause
You
they're
can
the
tackle
easiest
that.
ones.
We've done it in D&D when we've had a hardened
Yeah.
D&D player go, but that don't normally happen. And it's like,
Yeah,
oh, that
yeah, I
ain't that
suppose
world,
so, yeah.
mate. That's a different world, buddy. So yeah, you know.
Bass.
MC Monty on the mic, yes
Yes, I was sitting in the gaff and I had no fucking clue. Yes, I had to do something to do.
I think, obviously, because our format's been online for obvious reasons, Nick's been able to use like really nice images as references.
Yeah.
and they really encapsulate and allow, players to better imagine what's going on. And like, instead of, because you don't need it because it's online, because you can chuck pictures up, you don't need to be immediately descriptive.
But I think you've made a good point though, because for these games, as popular as they are, and any books and any shit like that, you're likely to be able to find cool shit to use as aids. Obviously, let's come up with a different word for that, but at a table. Because the other day, I was just thinking about running a Resident Evil game, and obviously the full map of the first mansion is out there. And I bet you there's a full map of Rapture out there somewhere, and Destiny nicks all these cool images of the game. They could be quite evocative, put them on an iPad or whatever, and just show people, all right, this is what you're looking at. And because the game's got so much fucking material, it helps you to run a fucking game.
All there.
It's even easier.
Totally.
I mean, there's a few times that you've done it, Harrison, and you as well, Nick. Like, because again, with the online format, you can just be like, "Give me a second. I'm just gonna. Here you go. This is what it looks like."
Yeah, exactly.
But then, Harrison, you've done it where you've actually, got a monster in the book, and then you just put your hands over some of the words, the names, the combat rating, or whatever it is you need to obfuscate, and then you just go, "There you go. Looks like this," and then we're just like, "Oh, sweet,
look at that
awesome!"
bastard.
Or, "Oh my god, that's
but
scary."
then if you're running fucking Bioshock, right, and you go, "This is what you're fighting," but you've just taken my tip and started the golem, and you hold it up, and you're like, "But didn't you say it was a mech earlier?" And I'm like, "Shut up.
Don't ask questions.
Don't ask questions, all right? I am the master."
Well, obviously, don't show pictures to what it isn't.
Yeah, all that.
I mean, that's our
a good
number
idea.
one tip of the day. Don't show what it isn't.
Very good.
So, like, it was touched on earlier. I think, system choice is a very, very important thing. You mentioned about Savage Worlds being... not Savage Worlds. I just read what I wrote. Batman being used in Call of Cthulhu, and how the mechanics didn't work very well because of combat and stuff.
Yeah.
Personally, I'd use Savage Worlds because in the Batman system, especially how we were playing it, we were technically trying to be heroes as well.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And because of the exploding dice that Savage Worlds has, I think it's a really, really good system to use.
100%.
Because it means that you have the ability to do a lot better than you otherwise are normally capable
Especially
of.
for...
It's a good fit for a superhero game, right?
It really is. I mean, Aliens vs. Rednecks uses the superhero powers straight from core. And it feels good, especially for street level type, which is what we were doing in the Batman game. And that Batman game was pretty badly made all over, because my character, Man, beat Superman. How the fuck does that work?
Yeah, just because of the roles he beat Superman. That's so
the thing
funny.
is, Call of Cthulhu isn't made for making Superman.
No, it's not. Unless Superman is a dark elder god from another dimension.
Well, that's what he should have been, I guess. Yeah, but fucking hell, it was insane.
Yeah, it would have made more sense.
I mean, we just.
Now I will show you my true
But
form.
a guy whose power was being boring beat him in a straight up fight.
Oh god.
We've been talking about monsters and stuff. I think it'd be a really good idea as a player. It's really fun to see and witness different monsters and encounters. So you've got like in any sort of game.
Here's a good example. Fucking Fallout, man. Fallout.
Go on.
How many times do you fight raiders or geckos or whatever, right? And then so all you need to do to fix that fucking problem. I'm just going over to my shelf here. I've got a Twisted Menagerie manual. Get a good fucking monster manual.
Oh.
This is for American Survival Guide, right? So we got a piranha newt. In fact, there's a whole section on newts. Menfish. We got a crab, which is a crab with a bunch of speakers attached to it. Dragon robot. Doom Riders. We've got the Trilobster raptor, and there's a psychic dinosaur called a Cyceratops.
Very good.
Amazing. That's fucking sick. So that is it. Yeah, literally that. Have lots of things up your sleeve that you can just slap in anywhere, and it depends what it is you're adapting, but make sure it
because
fits.
something like fucking King Killer Chronicles or Lord of the Rings or Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, all these things already have loads of different shit to fight. But if you're adapting a video game specifically or a movie, typically the bestiary and those things is going to be quite shallow, because those games are really difficult to make and movies are short. So I would say just I agree completely wholeheartedly with James. You've got an opportunity to put monsters in there you think should be in the fucking thing, so you get to do that.
Yeah, totally. And I would say as well, another thing to consider would be that if it's quite a popular medium, i.e., I don't know, a video game that's quite popular or whatever, there's got to be fan stuff all over the internet, which is probably images that you'd never even conceive within the video game someone sat there and drawn. And that can give you inspiration as well.
It definitely fan art pages as well, but I mean, you've got to be careful when it comes to fan stuff because
that's true.
I mean, especially when you look on DeviantArt, you can find some cool images to use in your game, but you can also find some pretty horrific stuff. Like the other day, I was searching because I was wondering, like Wario means bad Mario, and there's Waluigi, right? And I just thought, is there such a? I bet somebody's made Wasonic. And I fucking Googled it. I'm like, oh, God, it's so stupid, this fucking image of Wasonic that somebody's made.
Wasonic.
But yeah, anyway, my point is that, yeah, just...
that was horrible.
Be careful out there.
Yeah, tread lightly on DeviantArt.
I didn't become a little bit of a slag. I became a total slag.
The thing is, I think what we've done here today is we've come up with a lot of really good tips. We've got what players like to see in a game. We've got James's tips. We've got mine and Nick's tips. And we've shown you... I could literally start a fucking Bioshock campaign tomorrow with no prep. It's that fucking easy. But people think it's hard, and it really isn't. Wasn't the funniest episode we've ever done, but never mind. We try it. Sometimes...
no, it's good.
No, we've got some shit coming up. All right, guys, we're gonna have a laugh.
All right.
A laugh. Anyway, that is it. If you've got any tips on how you would adapt something, or any of your tips, or any of the things you like to see when something's adapted, then email it in to 3trpgpod@gmail.com or comment on the episode or whatever, and we will read them out in feedback next time. But for now, shall we do some electro letters?
Yes,
please.
In the future, you will be able to send a letter or parcel from anywhere on the planet. This, sir, is the electro letter. So, we asked you guys, you have to create a new monster for an RPG, but there's one rule. It has to be bloody stupid. What's your monster and why? I think the first one comes in, knocks out of the park. It's David Porter. He says, a Maxator, a giant, nigh-invincible bull with a man's head, whose only weakness is that it's really terrible at mazes. Why? Because sometimes you get the shit end of the genetics stick.
Okay.
Definitely going to have to rip that one off. I mean, just imagine seeing that fucking thing.
Mate.
I hear there's a Minotaur in this maze, but it's the other way round. Or imagine like a centaur, but it's... human bottom half, horse head, but it's the same size. It'd be really top heavy.
I see a funny meme the other day where it was like, what was it now? It was stupid, but it was like a Minotaur had a baby with a mermaid, but the offspring had obviously got the both human ends, so it just come out human.
That's awesome. Daniel Irwin, he comes in with the Reversenant, like a Revenant, but in reverse. Time around it goes backwards, so you have to hit it to undo damage until it's fully healed, at which point it tips its hat to you and goes on its way.
That's brilliant.
So good. So good.
That is very good.
Mysajek Zatoiwak, he did say stop trying to pronounce my name and just call him Joe. So Joe comes in and he says, imagine a giant with a fly's head, like a little dot on a large neck. I love that one. I love that one so much.
Just shaking its hands. It's like, is it talking or what?
Whenever you're trying to fight a giant, though, what do people do? They always go, right, I'm going to run up it, stab it in the eye. Yeah, good luck finding its head, fucko. I think it wouldn't be able to see past its own chest.
It's actually weird thinking about it. Its neck would be triangular.
It would go to a point.
Go into the point.
Oh god, that's so gross.
Richard Wilcock, he says a giant chicken because sometimes wishes go wrong. And this is from one of his sessions that we actually got to play in once, which was like a dream come true. And he
yes, it was starstruck.
Yeah, he basically there was this guy that had wished for 3 things, and one of them was he wished for a giant cock, and then we had to fight a giant chicken. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah, very good.
Henrik Erlandson, he says a vegan ogre. Not interested in fighting, but rather forcefully tells about the benefits of broccoli, nuts, and power berries.
Have I told you about power berries?
No, but listen. Can you please move out and away the door?
No.
He just stands there blocking the way in the dungeon, and he's like, "No, wait.
Vaping.
You know, there's as much iron in spinach as there is in a steak."
Celery is actually a negative calorie. Do you like my vape?
All right, Robert Woford. He says the Robert Plant. Isn't he a guitarist? Robert
yeah.
Plant. I don't know, but anyway.
So
Seed pods open to reveal various Roberts doing their thing. Yeah, I mean, it fits the remit. It is bloody stupid. I mean, imagine you just open a plant, a bunch of little guys run out. Suddenly they're... and also being attacked by like 50 different... No, actually, you know how plants pollinate by getting blown by wind? Maybe it does that, and suddenly there's a bunch of them just floating towards you with daggers in
little
hand.
Roberts. That's pretty good, actually.
I'm gonna fucking kill you! Owen Lean's one, the one he comes in with, he just says Dave.
Thanks, Owen.
We actually received our first ever picture submission for this one.
Oh yeah. Look at this.
So I'm looking at an image here from Terry Hansen. It's a picture of Godzilla, but it's got a woman's head, and it says Karanzilla is back. You are rude. Gimme discount or else. And then somebody's replying, "Are you serious?"
Yes.
A
Karanzilla.
I don't know, man. I think we should have specified that this should work in the game, because the Vegan Ogre, classic. Robert Plant, fucking awesome. Giant with a...
Dave, definitely works.
It's all of these are good, but the Karanzilla, I don't know, man. It wouldn't be able to fit into a Walmart to argue about, or maybe it tears the top off the building and then asks for a discount.
Yeah, that's what it does. Yeah, then it asks for a discount.
We got a couple of general questions that came in. Richard Woolcock, he says, question 1. You play a literal game of dice with death and win. As a reward, death offers you a full set of polyhedral dice carved from the bones of any deceased human of your choice. It's a magic reward, so it doesn't matter if they died thousands of years ago or were cremated, etc. Who do you choose? And I've got to be honest, I think I'm realising... This podcast is making me realising what type of guy I am, because I immediately thought Hitler. No, not because I like him or I like his style. But what I'm saying is that if there was any boasting rights that you had Hitler's bones as your dice, I mean, that's good boasting rights, isn't it?
That is pretty good.
Would you really want like a good guy's bones?
Well, no, because I suppose if it's Hitler, it's almost as if you're like, look at you now. You do my bidding.
Yeah. You're literally my plaything now, right? What if you're somebody you really respect? You're like, every time you roll the dice, you're like, sorry Elvis.
He'd be so mad if you get 1.
Yeah, so I'm going with Hitler or Jesus.
Good. Okay.
Both sides of the same coin, really.
All right, fair play. I would probably give whoever makes them crap Cthulhu dice a run for their money and just get old H.P. Lovecraft's bones. They'd be pretty twisted, wouldn't they?
H.P. Lovecraft, that's pretty good. I'm surprised you didn't go for David Bowie, Nick.
The ultimate Eldritch bones. Well, yeah, they'd be good, but they'd probably be really sparkly. Couldn't see the number on them very well.
They would be those types of unreadable dice, wouldn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
It's got like a fucking like a lightning bolt painted across it or something.
Yeah.
You know, one of my favourite set of dice that I've ever used was on a virtual tabletop, and it was the Shrek dice that whenever you rolled it, it went, somebody. And I was thinking maybe each dice that you get comes with a sound clip, you know, every time you roll it. And Hitler's would be like, 9!
Well, if you roll a 9.
Yes, every time you roll a 9.
Oh, God.
Oh, that's good. James, how about you?
I'd probably go for Einstein on the hope that when I roll them, I get smart.
Oh.
I get smart. I love the way you put that. Yeah, okay. Einstein's, you know, because it's all about picking somebody that's like really famous. Because it can't be like, oh, my dead granddad. No, I don't think that's what he'd want. But Hitler.
No.
Yeah, he's there just like, how dare you, you bitch.
Roll me, will you?
His soundbite is like, fancy a Werther's original? Thanks,
so many people won't know what they are.
Well, suck my farts.
Suck my Werthers.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. Question 2. Death explains that the soul of the deceased person will be imprisoned within the dice and their tortured, I should have read this beforehand, ghostly voice will scream the results of your dice rolls. I'm sticking with Hitler in that case.
Would you stick to your original choice, or would you rather have a different donor for the dice?
No.
No, I think H.P.
Because
Lovecraft
we've
would
already
love
discussed that. Hitler announcing the dice rolls. 9!
That. 9! Eins!
Yeah, but you just sit there the whole time. Just.
See, the thing is with your guys' choices, you don't really know what H.P. Lovecraft and Einstein sound like, so it could be fucking horrible. What if H.P. Lovecraft sounds a bit like that? And he's like, every time your eyes like, 1!
It was an unfathomable 1.
What if Einstein had the lowest voice on the frequency scale ever known to man?
One has shook the fucking table. He's like Barry White.
Yeah, you'd be like 1.
It's like when people bass boost shit. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
Yo, you know what? Actually, no, she's still alive. But what about Kat Slater from fucking EastEnders with that? I became a total slag.
That's when you get 20. I became a total slag.
Yes.
Love it.
Well, that's definitely going to be a jingle for this episode. All right, we got another general question
from Matchazite Koyak.
He says, could you tell something about the Warhammer Roleplay First Edition? In my country, Poland, it is idolised as the first and best RPG experience people had. Now it's more of a running joke in a community, but still big number of people play it and don't convert to 2nd, 3rd or even 4th edition, not to mention switching to modern games. I wonder how this game was received in other parts of the world, and were there any other cases where D&D wasn't the first game printed in a language, making other systems synonymous to RPG in a country?
Well,
Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay wasn't a big deal. Every single fucker in school when we were growing up knew what Warhammer was, but because of the war game. Mm-hmm. The role-playing wasn't a thing at all.
No.
Like, we didn't even know it fucking existed, and it's still to this
Even our parents and that generation knew what Warhammer was, because it was all about, at least to them, it was all about painting the minis.
Yeah, to what D&D was in America, where it's associated with nerds. Everyone knows what it is, but it's only really nerds that play it. That was Warhammer
Games Workshop.
Fantasy Battles.
Yep.
Yeah. So, it wasn't a big deal at all. I didn't even know it existed until I became an adult and played it with you and Eric, Nick.
And it was the best. It's so good. I mean, if you want grimdark, that is why it's so good.
It's awesome. And you know, the minis available for it are really fucking nice, but way too expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's basically it. And as far as I know, I can think of one other example where D&D isn't synonymous with role-playing. And in Japan, I don't know why. Actually, I can think of two. But in Japan, I don't know why. But D&D, it did get picked up, and it is quite popular. But Sword World, Tunnels and Trolls, and Call of Cthulhu still outrank it massively.
Yeah. Isn't there
awesome.
a German game called? Is it The Eye?
The Dark Eye.
That's it.
The Schwarzaugen.
That's
yes.
a big game, isn't it?
Yeah, and as far as I know, that and Shadowrun sort of came up before D&D. I might be wrong there, but I think that's the case, because I remember our friend Manuel telling us that.
That's it, exactly that. Yeah, and I think there's a Spanish game that's popular in Spanish role-playing game. I can't remember now. I might be misremembering, but I'm sure there is.
Excuse me, I think you mean Juego de Rol.
What's that? Is that it?
It just means role-playing game.
Yeah, that's the one.
I think there was a Spanish role-playing game called El Gigante Pene.
Giant what? Penis?
Yeah, sorry.
Very good.
Right, that's it. Immaturity has taken over. Let's do an outro.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your letters, everyone. And some really great questions, especially the general ones. Really enjoyed answering those. And we will see you in the outro.
So, yes, one of our favourite things is a medieval blood sport. Cockfighting.
Yeah.
Base. Alright, so if you want to support the show, we do have a Patreon. Just search up for 3T RPG podcast on there. And if you want to donate at the $10,000 level, that's fine. You can do that.
Love you,
you can do that.
You want to become a god, that's the only way currently, so please do. Products, we've got stuff out on DriveThruRPG, 3T RPG Publishing. We've got 3 adventures there. We're going to have more after the corona's happened.
Yep.
And contact-wise, you can contact us on 3trpgpod@gmail.com.
And all the social medias.
That's correct. All right, that's it.
All right, then.
For another show.
We're done. Right. I'm off to cut the grass.
Oh.
Right.
I have been Harrison Hunt.
I have been Nick Lamley.
And I have been James Clark.
And remember that D20s are cool, but 20Ds, now that's a good time.
Yeah.